we'll continue with, okay, we'll continue with IELTTA IELTS pre-speaking preparation course. And this session is entitled Part 2 Speaking Strategies. I'm going to share my screen now. Oh, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Now I'm going to the second session. It's about strategies in part 2. So now we can find it in strategies for part 2. طبعا زي ما انتم شفتوا, as you saw in the videos, part 2 needs in order to talk the long term from 1 to 2 minutes, you need to prepare well, and you should have some strategies in your mind. You should have practiced part 2 many times before you are in the real test, because as we know that the test itself is expensive. So you're not going to waste your money and time and just for trying or experimenting in a test which costs about 4,000 Egyptian pounds. Now, first of all, the cue card. Look at these and tell me which one of these actually describes a cue card.
Okay, number 3, topic that you have to talk about for 1 to 2 minutes.
Yes. What else? Anything else?
I'm reading.
This is not correct. This is not correct.
A text that you have to read out.
So number 2 is correct.
Yeah.
No, this is not. Just number 2 is correct. This describes the cue card. Typical cue card. In your test, you will have a cue card like this, for example. So the main topic is interesting website. لازم أنا يعني الكيو كارد أولاً you are not allowed to write anything in it. لأن الكيو كارد بيستخدم أكثر من مرة في الاختبار في نفس اليوم, for example. فبالتالي you are not allowed to write anything in the cue card. بس هنا I have to read it and take notes in a piece of paper which the examiner will give to me. So I have to underline the keywords in each point. So you can just write in the piece of the paper the topic itself, interesting website visited, and make notes about the grammar you are going to use. Is it present, past, future? Okay, visited. You visited it. So this is past or present. Your cue card will determine the kind of grammar. How you first knew about the website, first, and how. This is not the focus of time. This is the focus of how. What the website is about. And don't forget this. Why you think it is interesting? يبقى when, how, what, how many things you should cover here?
4 points.
4 points. So in your first, let's say, we will call it paragraph, for example, you should cover all of these, and then you extend your answer. to make يعني عشان اخلص الموضوع ان انا التاسك اتشيفمنت انا حققته خلصنا. Okay. So as you can see, this is a descriptive way of talking. The first line of the cue card says describe. What do you think the rest of the cue card will be? Mention 4 points here that you can have in the cue card.
Okay, what do you do, or what is this?
Yeah. So first thing is you have to tell us what is this kind of interesting sport. The second one.
Maybe when did you start?
When did you start? Yes. Third one.
Then the time, how long, for how long, or how much time did you
Yes,
spend?
it could be, or how did you learn it, for example, or how long have you been practicing it? And
yeah, okay, and then I explain how this exercise helps you in your life,
or why it is exciting for you.
Yeah.
And so on. So you have to anticipate. Anticipation, اللي هو expectation about the question is very important in the IELTS, not only in the speaking, but also even in the listening and other skills. طيب, what the sport is? Let's compare our guesses. What did we talk about? What?
Yes.
Did we talk about how? You said when, and I said how. Okay, and explain why. Did we talk about why?
Yes.
Okay. So the bullet points, اللي هي دي بنسميها bullet points or the prompts, ask obvious questions about your topic, but you don't need to restrict yourself to the bullet points on the cue card. You can say whatever you like about the chosen topic, but I have to put in mind that I have covered this point first. Then I will extend my answer, not restricting myself into these points. Next cue card. Describe a subject you didn't like before but are interested in now. This is like a comparison. You should say what it was, for example, history. وأنا بكتب in the piece of paper, I should write history. When you studied the subject 2 years ago, بكتب بس just the short answer to the question before I formulate it into a speaking response. Why you didn't like it before? Teacher was boring. مدرس كالعادة. Why you have interest in it now? So great film about World War II. يبقى هنا physical terms وبرضه لازم يكون something to describe your feelings. Okay. برضه some way of extending your let's say some way of extending your response is to think about what you saw, what you felt, what you smelled, what you touched, what things like this. So you can add extension to your speaking by using your senses. Now let's look at this response. Read the response for 2 minutes, then we can discuss it. Okay, so what do you think, Mr. Khalid?
About the points?
Yeah, did it cover all the points?
I don't remember the points, but let's say no.
Why? The points are here. History,
All right.
2 years
History,
ago.
yes.
Teacher was
Yes.
boring. So great
Yes.
film in World War II. So did
Yes.
she
So
cover?
yes, cover.
So they were covered. How did she extend this? Her answer. The last time I saw the fantastic film about what it was called, more details about your answers in the let's say the piece of paper or your notes, and more about the film itself. Okay, so this is a very nice response, which you actually it can take up to 8. She used like good use of collocations and good use of idioms and so on. Now, the second strategy is using your senses in order to make extended responses. She watched, she heard, she touched, or she heard sounds, and so on. What were Gilbert's thoughts and feelings from her response? So if you go again to the response, you could find this technique in extending. I saw, this is her using her eye. Village, favorite horse, goes a war. Guess it's a little predictable. The horse again, and so on. Here told. I wanted to find out more about Five World War. I went to the library, took a couple of books, and I also asked my grandmaster knew. So I have finally decided to like history. To be honest, using fillers, thought. So you're taking your sense into the talking. Right. Sometimes some topics will need concrete physical descriptions, right? So making advantage of your senses, smell what you smelled, what you saw, what you heard, can actually add to your talking and to extend your time. Okay, so for example, if the topic is about a day at the seaside, the last day of school, or about a recent meal with your family, a good technique is to depend upon your senses. If it is an abstract topic, so sometimes we have abstract topics and sometimes we have concrete topics. This technique might not work well for abstract things. This is a cue card. Describe a friend who you think is a good leader. طبعا التكنيك هنا انك لازم تركز كمان على او concrete والabstract things. Who is your friend? Ahmed, for example. How you met first at school. how other people behave towards him or her. They like him, for example, because he's very helpful and so on, and explain why you think he or she is a good leader. مثلا give some situations about Ahmed and so on. Describe a situation, problem and solution. برضه من ضمن الحاجات اللي بتيجي في part 2 زي بقى what happened to me last time. Describe a hobby. Describe a place. Describe a place يبقى انا هستخدم السنسور my senses, abstract and let's say concrete topics. Another way is to think about problem and solution. For example, look at this cue card. Describe a situation when you received some useful advice. On this cue card, someone is sending a message or something. Okay. Lost my job, for example. This is a problem, a situation. My father, who gave you the advice, father, what's the advice? Call all classmates, explain, found a new job. Explain how this advice was useful, found a new job. So in preparation for this talk, you just add some sort of like telegraphic answers and use the technique. This is a sample answer to the previous cue card. Let's have 2 minutes to look at it. So what do you think, Mr. Khaled? Did he cover all?
Like now I'm thinking about like the questions when. Yes, he covered.
What's the situation? Lost my job. Who gave you advice? My
Pardon.
father. What was? Call all the classmates. Found a new job. يعني how explain how this advice was useful? I could find a new job. شوف هنا, guess what? An old friend from my school actually was actually looking for a salesperson. And a few weeks later, I was working for his company. In fact, I still work there. So one strategy here is to identify the problem and solution in this kind of cue cards. Describe a change that will improve your local area. So here you should think about a problem in your local area, in your city, and a solution. And لما أقول describe a change, يعني there is a problem, you should find a solution for. What the change is, why the change is needed, whether there will be any problems associated with the change problems. Explain how it will improve local area. Another kind of cue cards is a cue card which speaks about the best model of something. Could be approached with the concrete abstract. هنا في الحالة دي in this case هرجع تاني للاستراتيجي بتاعت concrete abstract model اللي احنا which we talked in the previous slide. Describe an electronic machine or device that you would like to buy. Okay, what you would use it for. طبعا ما بيبقاش في صورة طبعا في البتاع في الاختبار, no pictures. How you got to know about it, what special features it has, and explain why I would like to buy it. It could be a computer, it could be a smartwatch, it could be a laptop, it could be a mobile phone, and so on. Now, which of these statements would you make a good ending to a part 2 speaking task? Good ending. Can you answer the question?
Yes, I'm reading them. The first one, I think.
Yeah.
And the second one, like, would be appropriate as well.
I don't think. I think that's all I have to say. I think this one is not good. I called my sister the next day.
No.
I have been to other beautiful places, but this one is really special for me. This is also a good way to end your question. I don't know the word to describe what I want to say.
No.
When you finish your talking, you should think about a sentence which you should finish the talking turn with. Now, what if you don't have an example? Rank these topics in order of relevance to your own life and interests. Describe a park garden you like to visit. Does this interest you or not? Park
or garden you like that? Yes.
Okay. Talk about a house or an apartment you would like to live in.
Yes.
Interesting. A foreign culture that you like.
For me, it's not that interesting, but it maybe for some people.
But you have to read about it before you go to a speaking test.
Sure.
You have to get familiar with many of the topics. You can download a book about the topics because anyway, just going to the exam without preparation will cost you. Describe a subject that you think should be removed from school.
That's interesting.
Okay. Describe an important letter or email that you received. Interesting.
Yes.
Okay. I think we have only like 8 minutes for this to be ended, but also we finished this. What do you think will be the hardest about part 2 of the speaking test? What is the hardest thing about it? This is the last slide, the last part of this session.
Maybe why?
I think, like, to be honest, like after attending the lecture, everything like seemed obvious and clear. So nothing is difficult for me, to be honest.
Okay, but you will need more practice. You can answer some questions in your own. You can watch the videos, take ideas, read a lot. The IELTS is not like an achievement test. So there is no curriculum or syllabus for the IELTS. It's an open source. So the more ideas you have in your mind about many of the familiar topics and topics that interest you, or even things that don't interest you, it will be better for your preparation for this part. It's a very, very important part. And one thing that you should put in your consideration, and both of you are teachers, in some interviews for jobs, they might ask you similar questions like this, like the IELTS speaking. And it happened to me before. I knew nothing about the IELTS. The owner of a school in Saudi Arabia asked me to talk about something interesting for 2 minutes, and he holds a watch. And guess what? I didn't have the ability to do that because I didn't expect the question. I spoke for 1 minute, and then after 1 minute, I began to like this. I have never heard about the IELTS before at that time. It was, I think that was back in 2012 or something like that. So I guess that you are more lucky, but you have to work on yourselves. You have to be prepared for the job market. Miss Zainab is also an English teacher. So my advice to you is start preparing your profile to be a professional teacher. And it starts from here. It starts from the IELTS. It's a key requirement in jobs. And it's all, plus the TEFL, TESOL, or the CILTA if you have the ability to take it financially, and if you are proficient, because in many centers, they will test your English ability. They want to make sure that your English level is up to B2 or C1. Okay, they will not ask you to do the IELTS for a CILTA course, but they have their own method of testing your ability. They will have like an interview, and the interview is similar in some part or another with the IELTS, but the content is different. Instead of talking about everyday life, you will be talking about a class or a level, or describing a lesson that you did, the methodologies that you used in the lesson. Okay, so the speaking test is very, very important in the form of an interview. It will raise your interview skills, whether you're going to have the real IELTS exam or not. And as a teacher, you should be familiar with many types of questions. You know what is now going up in Egypt? Not only the IELTS. Now people are thinking about taking the Duolingo exam. Have you ever heard about it?
No.
Okay. I'm going just to stop the recording now. Do you have any questions in relation to the topic today?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Please, could you